Oh my God. She is back. Dance Doctor is back with a Kizomba tutorial. Let's see if anything has changed since the last time. Honestly, I'm a little bit scared.
Part of today's video is going to be learning that when we lift the foot off the ground, in certain situations, we're not lifting the entire foot off the ground. In the first lesson that I gave, I wanted every step that we took, if it wasn't a rock step, to be lifting off the ground so that we really feel our weight changing completely to the other foot and then feel that weight dropping back down onto the foot that we're walking onto. But
that's actually a great tip because you want to make sure that people transfer their weight properly to the right foot. I totally get that. However, by telling people to lift their foot entirely, you're giving them bad habits. Oftentimes, what I've seen with my students is stuff that you start when you're first starting is really, really hard to get rid of. So I found that even though it's a bit more challenging to do it the right way from the get-go, it's more rewarding at the end because you're building great habits right from the start.
And that is, we are going to only lift the heel off the ground and then place it back down. Again, the reason that I teach lifting the whole foot off the ground first is so that we really feel that correlation between the hip moving and the foot lifting off the ground and then placing that foot back on the ground with this knee bent and then pushing, release, step, push, release, step, push. So that when we start to add this more subtle technique, which is actually the authentic Kizomba technique. What?
Authentic Kizomba technique? What? Wow, I have no words. I have no words. She said authentic Kizomba technique.
Here with that feeling of releasing, stepping, and pushing so that we don't end up doing something else in the body that is not actually correct. So, I want to practice this. Like I said, instead of lifting the whole foot off the ground now, we want to try and get the same sensation in our body, but just lifting the heel. So as I lift my heel, I always feel like I have this feeling in my body.
Again, the technique is wrong. She's lifting the heel and relaxing the hip at the same time. But we already know from past videos that the relaxation of the hip and the step is not at the same time.
Lift. This should feel pretty intuitive. What a lot of my students do, which is incorrect, is they'll shift their hips as they put the heel down. What helps us create this wave action, this wave action, this wave action, in the body that is very
because this is an authentic Kizomba tutorial, I have to say, authentic Kizomba is a no wave zone. No wave zone. No taps, no waves.
A few moments later.
No taps, no waves. No taps, no waves. No taps, no waves. No taps, no waves. No taps, no waves.
Stop it. Get some help.
Authentic Kizomba does not have waves, especially not in the basic one. So anyways, let's keep going.
Put the heel down without changing the angle of the tilt in the hips, and naturally that is going to send my hip on my left side back, then I push into the ground to come up into neutral and release back.
Wow. See how she moves? How like her upper body is going one side and her lower body is going to the other side. This is very Latin. In Kizomba, your body parts are stacked. Everything is grounded down and your hips are moving down and up, or down and back to neutral, not actually up.
Put the heel down. Release, the hips tilt. I put the heel down, my hips go back. They're tilting forward, but they're physically going behind me. Push to come up into neutral. Release. Now my hips are on an angle down toward the left.
I mean, I have to give it to her. She's great at explaining. I mean, she's explaining the wrong thing, but she's great at explaining the wrong thing. Like,
so we're going side, tap, side, tap, and as we learned in the first Kizomba basic lesson, we go side, tap, and side, tap, and. Now, we're going to add, like I said, a circular motion in the hips so that we're not just lifting and releasing. So we're going side, and now here I'm going to push into the floor to create a half circle with the side of my hip in which I am tapping. So in this case, it's my left. So I'm going back, up, and around. Okay, so I'll do that from the side. I go back, up, and around, and then I'm ready to step to the other side. So now I go to the left, and I'm going to push it.
her basic technique for the basic 2 is already wrong. So yes, you can add a circle in your basic 2 as GINGA or as styling once you mastered the basic 2. But the way she's adding the circle is like even more wrong than her basic 2 itself.
When we're dancing, but today I'm going to teach the real version of basic 3, which is instead of doing 2 walks,
I almost had hope because she said she was gonna teach the real version of basic 3, and then she added the tap. No tap, no waves. No tap, no waves. No tap, no waves. There's no tap and no waves. Okay, in the basic. Anyways, let's keep going.
So this version of the step looks like this. Walk, walk, tap, walk, walk, tap. Walk, walk, tap, walk, walk, tap. And as I said before, it takes up 6 counts. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's no slow beats. Each action that we do occupies.
I mean, you already know what I'm gonna say.
There's no tap actually in the basic 3. It's a mark down. Mark down means you're taking a step and you're resetting your hips to neutral level. She's not doing it properly here. She's doing a tap, and then even with that, she manages not to bring her hip back to neutral. I don't know how that happens. Normally, she would bring it up instead of coming to neutral, but.
Anyways, the way also her posture, like if you look at her feet, very salsa. Normally your feet will be like this, but she's like that, which that's usually not how you do it. But anyways, those are just details.
Introduce a variation of this, which is very commonly used when you're being led in Kizomba, and I also really love to use it when I'm dancing Kizomba by myself, which is a rotating tap from our backward movement. So I go 1, 2, and then I'm going to rotate, and which is then going to take my right foot diagonally.
So what she's showing right now is very old school. Like when I first started dancing, like everybody was doing that. Not anymore.
Backward. So instead of doing my tap right in place, if my leader rotates his chest, that's going to be reflected in my hips and subsequently in my foot. And from here, I am going to use that tap that we were.
Actually, if your lead rotates his chest, it's reflected in your chest, right? The rotation of his chest does not rotate your hips. Like it's not a chest to hip connection, it's a chest to chest connection.
Now, because my foot, the trajectory of my foot would be to come in doing my normal basic 3, I'm going to slide it in anyway. So that's a step that I don't want to forget to do, because then the step becomes very clunky. I want to pass through the middle to get here, and then pass through the middle to come back, so that this has a very nice, graceful, sexy look to it. So again,
that's like a whole debate in Kizomba. She just said graceful, sexy. And yes, you can make Kizomba sexy, but it doesn't have to be. So whenever you are introducing the dance to people and you're making it sexy, people associate the dance with sexiness, which is then changing the essence of the dance. Like, it's a dance, it's not a sexy dance, right? You can make it sexy, you can make it conservative. That's something like you really, really need to pay attention to, especially like when you teach it to people who are not of the same culture. There are things that get lost in translation. And that's not only her, like a lot of people, when they want to sell Kizomba, they use sex and they use the sexiness they can add to it to sell it, but it doesn't have to be that way. So this is just a side note. She said sexy. You can make it sexy if you want to, but please be aware that the dance itself is not a sexy dance. People that were raised with Kizomba, they learn it from family members. They will learn it with their brothers, their fathers, their sisters, their mothers, etc. You don't dance with your family members that way. You wouldn't dance in a sexy way. Like, that's no, you can't do that, right? So you still dance Kizomba, but then if you're dancing with your significant other, you may add some sexiness to it, right? Because the relationship of the person you're dancing with is quite different. So it can be sexy, but it's not inherently sexy.
Today's lesson, which is the cha-cha. In its most basic form, we are going to practice the cha-cha facing in one direction. However, it is very commonly used rotating. So the step itself looks like this. As a follower, I'm going 1, 2, cha-cha. Okay, and that's the entire step. We can do continuous cha-chas, we can do turning cha-chas. There's a million variations, but that is the most basic form of the step. So again, I'll demonstrate it from behind, and then I'm going to explain a little bit more about how we use this step. So I am going rock, step, cha-cha. Practice that again. We go 1, 2, cha-cha. And again, 1, 2, cha-cha. 1, 2, cha-cha. 1, 2, cha-cha. Okay?
Okay, so cha-cha, yes, we use it in Kizomba. What caught my attention here is her hip movement. Like, her hip are moving diagonally, and it shouldn't be moving that way, at least not in Kizomba. Your hip needs to remain square. Like, it's really, your hip are moving down and up, not front and back. And you can see when she's stepping, the salsa is coming back into it, and she's rotating her hip back or forward, depending which one you're looking at.
To always be ready to do a cha-cha after we step forward on our left foot. So, for example, if I was doing a saída, which is a step that I haven't covered yet, but I'm going to cover in our next Kizomba Basics video. If I were doing my saída and I stepped forward on my left, from here I can do a cha-cha. Okay? If I'm doing my basic 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, from here I can do a cha-cha. So we're practicing getting into our muscle memory that anytime the leader leads us forward on the left foot, the next step that we do, if it is a sideways step, is going to be a cha-cha. And this is something that takes a lot of getting used to. I have my followers ask me a lot, well, how was I supposed to know that was a cha-cha? Just from practicing, from getting it into your muscle memory that anytime you step forward on your left, if the next step is moving to the side, it's a cha-cha. So just getting used to that. So this is a really good...
anytime you're stepping forward with the left, then the next step is a cha-cha. So I see what she's doing, and most of the time what she says is true, but no. I think it's more important for people to understand how to follow the step than to guess if the step is coming or not, because you could be stepping forward out of a saída like she just did and just go straight into a basic 2. But if you've already told your follows that as every time you're stepping forward and then you're going to the side is a cha-cha, then you're creating habits. And when it doesn't happen, it will make for a very clunky dance. Important part is to learn how to follow the steps. If you're dancing with someone who's very creative, they could do something else. They could get into the cha-cha in another way that will catch your students off guard, and then they won't be able to follow it. Be really, really, really careful when creating rule of thumbs like that, because Kizomba is, like she said, a walking dance. You have to take it one step at a time. You shouldn't take it as patterns. Like if you're starting a basic 3, you may not finish the basic 3. So take it one step at a time.
Before we move on to the rotation, I just want to say one thing about the technique of the cha-cha. Because it is a syncopated step, what my students tend to do, because they have to speed up, is they'll do this really nicely and then they kind of freeze up and do that with their feet on the cha-cha.
Or another thing that I've seen is people would jump into the cha-cha. Both things are not right. You need to keep your basic Kizomba movement whatever the steps you're doing. So your hips might not relax as much because your step is faster, so your hip movement will be smaller, but you still want to have that, even though she doesn't have it.
3 and 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3 and. So every time
there's something that really annoys me here is how she has her hands like this. Like it feels like she's so cramped up and holding a lot of tension in her upper body. And if you dance like that with a partner, it's not gonna go well. You're not gonna be able to follow as well. And you'll also transfer some of that tension to your partner. So you want to relax down. It's gonna enable you to dance and to move a lot better and to look a lot more natural, because right now with everything that's happening here looks so forced. And I think it has to do a lot with all the tension she has in her body. Like she's pushing her hips, pushing her top, holding her core, and
then we can start over with our basic 1 and continue to rotate in that fashion. Okay? So now I'll explain everything that I'm doing as I do it, facing away so that you can easily follow along. So we do our basic 1, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, basic 2.
Okay, well, you know what? I think I've watched enough for today. So I thought the first tutorial was bad and I didn't know we could do worse, and congratulations, you have. Okay, but without being mean, I have to say Dance Doctor explains things very, very well. It's just too bad that she's explaining the wrong technique for Kizomba, especially if she's calling it authentic Kizomba. Like, this is not it. This is not it at all. Like, if you see this and then you see someone else dancing authentic Kizomba, it doesn't look like one another. One looks very crisp or very tense, very weird, and the other one looks a lot more natural, a lot more flowy, and has the right technique. So if you want to learn Kizomba with the actual right technique and movement, watch this video here. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and remember, no tap, no waves. No tap, no waves. No tap, no waves. No tap, no waves. Life is better with GINGA. See you. Bye.